Hey, welcome back. It's always that conundrum at music festivals, isn't it? You get the conflict, the schedule conflict of who do you see who's playing at the very same time. It's like the decathlon, the basketball game, and the callbacks. Noah Khan, 975, or Odessa. Who do you pick? Foo Fighters or Lana Del Rey? List goes on and on and on. And of course, the other thing to consider is what time do you show up? Because all these great acts are playing all throughout the day, the emerging acts, buzzworthy acts. You get there early enough, you get some really great gems, such as the case at Outside Lands, the 15th anniversary featuring a lot of great local acts, including King Isis, born and raised in Oakland, California. And they make some really interesting music, influenced by the likes of Paramore, just as they are with Erykah Badu and boho indie pop. Got a chance to talk to King Isis about what it was like to get that call to play the local hometown festival, influences, and more.
Yeah, so I got the email and I was honestly kind of taken aback. Outside Band is definitely like a festival I've been wanting to play for a while. I went a couple times in college. I had a great time. And just can imagine being on the stages. So the fact that it's actually gonna happen tomorrow, is just kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. I'm very grateful to be able to play tomorrow.
That is so rad. I'm so hyped for you. I mean, anytime a local artist gets their chance to shine at a local festival, especially here from the Bay Area playing Outside Lands, because there's a wealth of talent, it's such an awesome opportunity. And speaking of, being from the East Bay, people think, oh, R&B or hip hop, and rightfully so, because there's such a wealth of music that has come from that area. But your influences are not just that. Were you an emo kid? How did you learn about Paramore and alternative rock?
Yeah, I feel like with my mom, I listened to a lot of Erykah Badu and Outkast just growing up as a kid. I definitely had like my punk alternative phase I never really grew out of. I used to listen to a lot of Paramore and Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco. Um, but yeah, like you said, Oakland and just like the Bay Area in general has a lot of creative culture. Um, and even the Black Panthers too. Like I feel like just all of that kind of also feeds into my music as well.
It's certainly working for you. And I'm sure there was a little bit of a transition in picking up the guitar in the first place because you're classically trained in piano, from what I understand, learning at a very young age. And so, when was that transition? Obviously, you learned about Paramore and Fall Out Boy at some point. And how did you teach yourself how to learn how to play? Was it through YouTube videos, someone showing you the tabs to Misery Business?
Yeah, I mean, I love classical music. I think it's really beautiful. I still listen to classical music. Like, oh, it's on my playlist. Like, piano is just a beautiful instrument, and like, yeah, classical and other classical instruments are also really beautiful as well. But I feel like I didn't really start exploring or learning about like alternative music until I was in middle school. Um, Honestly, it might have been like Avril Lavigne earlier. Like she's like that pop punk, so it's like less like purely like alternative, but definitely like a good little segue into that world. But yeah, definitely that moment is still here. It's like all I listen to really.
Your stage name, I want to talk about that for a second, is so interesting. On paper, stereotypically, one would say, oh, it must be some male artist or male fronted band. But it's not just some random name that you picked. It's a combination of your name, Isis, as well as a nod to your great great grandmother. You have quite the musical lineage. Explain to me who she was and where she was performing and all the details.
Yeah, yeah. So she was one of like the first Black opera singers in Chicago. Her name was Omega King, which is honestly just a crazy name in itself. But yeah, King Isis is for like yeah, homage to my great great grandma, and also just kind of like a challenging gender norm. Also challenging gender norms as well with the name.
There's so many different elements of your music that is just so appealing. Your voice, songwriting, I want to talk about those things versus the voice. Who were some of the vocal stylings that really influenced you early on and that you still carry today?
Thank you. I think like Erykah Badu is someone I listen to with my mom a lot, but it's still somebody I listen to like today, right now. I feel like her vocal style is something that I'm definitely influenced by, as well as someone like Amy Winehouse. But even like Paramore, I'm trying to tap in more into that world. to get that like projection for choruses, like get, like a bigger vocal, but I think mainly like in Cardioid or in Amy Winehouse.
I can totally hear that, especially when you perform acoustically. I'm fine, thanks for asking. It's just so beautiful when it's stripped down. Songwriting wise, though, who were some of those early influences that kind of shaped how you tell stories? I mean, everybody's been talking about her as of late, and I'll throw it out there. Was Taylor Swift an early influence as you were growing up?
I did have a moment with Taylor Swift like beginning of high school. If that was one phase that didn't stick around, I did have a moment with Taylor Swift, definitely. But also writing wise, I think I used to really love writing short stories as well. And like just like reading like nonfiction autobiographies and like just books. So I feel like writers and like how they tell stories, that's also influenced my lyric writing as well. Yeah, I just love writing.
So as you're growing up, you're writing these songs. You're influenced by, all this amazing music, and it wasn't as if you were playing at Gilman and playing local shows around the East Bay in the punk rock scene or what have you. Where did you start to really take it seriously and start to really think, okay, I can do this?
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like I was always writing songs like in high school and everything, but I didn't really start playing shows until I went to college, which was in New York. And so I was doing a bunch of open mics over there. And like I used to be an incredibly shy person. Like I used to cry in class trying to speak. So performing and like having like kind of forcing myself to share really vulnerable parts of me, I think that really enhanced like it helped my confidence and just helped me be more in tune with myself. But those first performances, I even still like to this day, I'm still working on like the talking in between songs. But I feel like those first couple performances were a little shaky for sure. A little shaky.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's to be fair, especially when you're starting out, you're figuring out what your stage presence is going to be, your sound. There's a lot of different things that are going on when you're performing live to an audience, and especially to the New York crowd. Was it as stereotypical as it could be, where they're really hard on you,
Yeah.
or did they not care? What was the reaction like to those early shows?
Yeah. I mean, one thing like I feel like, yeah, the stereotype is like everybody is like cutthroat, but the other side to that is that nobody really cares about like about you, like you can be whoever you want. It gives you more room to express yourself freely, I feel like. And in open mics, like with that in mind, it's like, everybody's just trying things, we're all just, yeah, playing our song. I feel like the reception was pretty good. Like it encouraged me to keep going, So I don't think it's that bad. Um, but I feel like because it's like such a big city and like everybody's, trying to trying to do their thing, um, it made it an okay environment to share my music in, I think.
Which makes sense. I think a lot of people move away from their hometowns for school or just to move out to figure themselves out without the judgment of family and friends and not be so self-conscious of all their actions and really take the time to develop themselves. Did you move to New York with that intention to figure yourself out, to start fresh?
I feel like intention wise with moving to New York, it wasn't about pursuing music. It was really just because I wanted to experience something else. And I honestly kind of was doubting like the ability to be able to pursue music, which is why I started with like the going into law, which is absolutely not me at all. But like me and music are like this. So like that was always gonna come back. And that's just where I feel safe is writing songs. So it like made sense and was natural to go play these shows and get the confidence to be able to be like, oh, I can actually do this. I don't know why, like to stop doubting myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. But I'm now curious, why the lack of confidence, considering you have that DNA, the musical DNA in you with your great great grandmother. Your mother was involved in, or passionate about music, and yourself as well. I would think that you would have all the confidence in the world in
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah, I think I've always kind of struggled with like anxiety and just like not fully believe myself. That's just something that's kind of been something I've been trying to deal with throughout my life, and I feel like that music has helped me deal with it. But yeah, sometimes, especially at the like at that moment, that self-doubt was really heavy and weighing on me. Um, and yeah,
Well, with the attention that you're getting, I hope that some of that anxiety is alleviated because you're doing something right. A lot of people love what you're doing. In fact, I understand that you have some new stuff coming up. What can you share?
yeah, so I'm releasing my second EP, Shed, really soon. I can't give you a date yet, but I am releasing it soon. And it's kind of like a follow-up in juxtaposition to the first EP, Scales. They all kind of center around this chapter, this idea of shadow work. Um, and yeah, the chapter is called Entering the Serpent by Gloria Anzaldúa. And so she talks about shadow work and using the serpent as a way of going inside yourself and kind of like addressing the parts of you that you repress or like are scared of, and kind of like meeting them, meeting them face forward and becoming whole, like duality and stuff. So this is the other side of scales. This is like the letting go and the shedding of those layers and those pieces of you that are kind of holding you back.
Well, I, for one, am really looking forward to that. I better get an advanced copy or something. But congrats on everything, especially playing Outside Lands. It's certainly an achievement, and I'm sure you're going to be invited many more times. Best of luck with everything, and thanks so much for doing this, Isis. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Yeah.